It's a change Calgarians have talked about for years. Should the speed limit on residential streets be lowered in the name of safety? On Monday night, Council took the next step in the process and will soon be asking for your opinion. A $200,000 public engagement campaign will be launched later this year. The city says it will hold open houses, town halls, and an online survey, as well as talking to transport businesses like bus companies. While the vote to hear Calgarians did pass, several councillors balked at the $200,000 price tag. However, others say the costs are worth it if it leads to fewer crashes.
Spending a few $100,000 on this, then the millions of dollars to actually change the signs, which is what's next on the list. I'm just saying, listen, can we do it when we're a little bit more economically healthy at this point than to do it right now when we're all strapped for cash?
Lives are on the line. Massive amounts of money are on the line in terms of the damage that is, visited on life and limb every year in this city. While I recognize that we're in a downturn and we have to look for places to cut expenditures, starting a project that should have started 20 years ago and putting it off for several more years is not the right thing to do.
Part of the engagement process will include sharing the different options for speed limit reductions with the public, which are 30 kilometers an hour on both residential and collector roads, 40 on both, 30 on residential and 50 on collectors, or no change at all. Engagement is expected to be done by the end of the year, and Council could vote on the possible reductions as soon as March. Michael King, Global News.
Before we get into it, I think I want to play for you the other clip as well, and then I'll make my comments. I have not seen this second video yet.
Presidential speed limits back before council today, and more details about a public engagement plan on whether to lower the limit or not. Gil Tucker is at City Hall. And Gil, how will Calgarians be able to have their say on speed limits in their neighborhood?
Well, if council decides to go ahead with, and it looks like they will go ahead with this engagement sort of study and process over the next while, a couple of questions that you will be able to weigh in on. Here are the numbers. Now, do you want in your residential streets 30 kilometers an hour and also on the collector streets? Do you want 30 kilometers an hour on the residential streets and then 50 on the collector streets? Or would you rather have 40 kilometers an hour on the collector streets and the residential streets? Those are some of the things that will be looked at there. We're just talking with some of the drivers and pedestrians just about an hour or so ago. A lot of opinions on what council should do.
Well, having lived in these smaller streets, they're usually narrower, and you get a lot of guys, if 50 is the limit, then they'll go up to that or higher.
I don't think so.
Why not?
As long as everybody follows the rules, it's okay. You mean to 30? Yeah, no. That's cool zones.
Yeah, lower them by 10. Down to 40. I think that'd be okay.
Not down to 30?
No, 30's too slow, I think.
So, Gil, council is expected to vote on this later this evening. Where does it go from there?
Well, if they decide to go ahead with an engagement study, that would cost $200,000. And then before the end of this year, they would engage the public. You can put your opinion in there and decide what you think should be best. Then the administration would make a report, and that would go back to council for March. And then they would, at that point, presumably make a decision on what to do. Linda?
Thanks, Gil.
So, here we go. Last night I prepared a video, but now I think I'll revise it and use this one instead. It talks about the rampart construction that's going on in Calgary. Before we get into the decrease in the speed limits, which I think they fully want to implement, I just want to bring to your attention quickly ongoing construction irks business owners along International Avenue. This was published quite a while ago, I think. Some businesses on 17th Avenue Southeast say road construction is taking a bite out of the bottom line. This particular lady, International Avenue is being completely overhauled with dedicated bus lanes. added, along with new BRT stations, wider sidewalk, upgraded boulevards. Salsa restaurant owner Carl Linares is looking forward to the improvements, but says her revenues have been cut in half since construction on the first phase began outside her door in the summer, and she has to lay off her staff as a result. It's hurt our business in some way because it's very chaotic. There's no parking. There's been a lot of construction, obviously, where they've removed everything. Everybody says construction kills business. This guy, Kenneth Cui, manager of Liquor Bank, says his store is losing money every day. The longer construction runs, the bigger damage to all business, including ours. So what I want to make the theme of this video is City Hall is out of control. What Nenshi is doing, what City Council is doing, is trying to remake the whole of Calgary. And they're using things like public safety, things like public service as a pretense to remake everything. Now, getting back to the speed limits. For those of you who may feel the speed limit should be reduced, should remain the same, should be decreased from 50 to 40, it doesn't matter. The issue to me is that this topic is up for discussion, and this topic intends to change the speed limits in Calgary drastically. If you drive, you'll know that 30 kilometers an hour is an absolute snail's pace, which I would agree in school zones is a necessary requisite, given the fact that there are young children or, whomever happens to be occupying a park or a school at the time. So it used to be, my fellow Calgarians, you'll know it well, that school zones were only in effect during peak hours. And then the city decided that school zones would take effect 24 hours a day, 365, let's say. Now, what nobody talks about is, in construction zones, speed limits were reduced in more ways than just putting the sign down. Okay, you might remember when we get back to Memorial Drive, for example. It was 70 kilometers an hour when, before they began construction, 70 all the way from Crowchild Trail, I believe Crowchild Trail, to basically Deerfoot. But actually, no, it's farther than that. It was up to, I believe, 36th Street, if I'm not mistaken. But since the construction project went on, they lowered it down to, I think, 50. So a 20 kilometer an hour hit. The other thing is, they spent millions and millions of dollars upgrading Memorial Drive to make it look more ostentatious. So here's what I'm trying to propose to you. I am proposing that City Council is using your fear with, or rather your apprehension with the speed limit in terms of public safety, let's say the subject is public safety, to exercise their control. And the fact that they're trying to put it down to 30 is it's an extreme action, very extreme. To those of you who drive, you know the city's incompetence when it comes to traffic right now. How difficult it is, how it's hard to navigate. The traffic lights are a disaster. So now we have, hypothetically, the traffic speed limit lowered to 30 kilometers an hour everywhere. That is far too slow. You would be faster on a bicycle, which I believe that council wants everybody to use instead of cars. So this at the very least, the speed limit reduction is an attack on anybody who drives. Anyone and everyone who drives, I tell you. I've driven in communities, it's been 40 kilometers an hour. During peak times, it's already getting backed up because the traffic, people don't like to move too quickly anymore. And they're even under the presumption that it's 40 kilometers an hour in 50 zones now. So they're already beginning to change their behavior a little bit here, a little bit there. But it's creating incompetence and backup everywhere they go. So I don't want to blame people, but I mean, the reality is changing the limits would make it impractical to drive in many places. It would be more efficient for you to cycle everywhere, especially in the downtown or especially in zones where they're proposing to make this a reality. For those of you who drive, 30 kilometers an hour is a snail's pace. You're barely moving. It's almost faster to walk. You know what I'm saying? It's pure incompetence. So when I'm trying to add the construction in here, construction, in addition to that, they're using these public interests to try to further the selfish interests of the city of Calgary. The city council is what I mean specifically. This Giancarlo Cara, I'm not even sure he understands the negative effects of implementing something like that. But he says in the name of public safety we should do it. Okay. Why don't we let the city decide what's good for public safety, right? Quite frankly, many of you don't know, in the city of Calgary, the fact that we got to get public engagement is a gift. The city council is so deeply corrupt, they wouldn't even let us, they were forced to give us a referendum on the Olympic bid, to which they lost because the city of Calgary voted against it. So I hope that there'll be a referendum on this as well, and I will find out more ways in which the public can engage, because it looks like town hall meetings and whatnot, that's so far the only way, but I think it should go way beyond that. There should be a public referendum held, and everybody should vote. And I think, what I suspect is that people will mostly vote either to keep things as they are, which is the best thing possible, or decrease the speed limit in certain areas by 10 kilometers an hour, which would make things less efficient. And to me, I don't see any benefit whatsoever, but some Calgarians may feel that way. So, but I want to encourage you to see some of the things that I've seen in my city that's radically changed from 10 or even 15 years ago. And I wanted to point out to you some of these silly construction projects that have been coming up. What I'm trying to say, this is like, to me, just based on anecdotal evidence, that it's an attack on Calgary drivers. When you look at the amount of construction that's occurred, it's a very deep inconvenience to everyone. And when a construction project goes ahead, it not only creates mass inconvenience, but none of the workers are working very efficiently. People will often tell you they see nobody working. The trucks are idle. The workers are idle. There are like 10 guys for one job, and most of them are standing around the work site. So as a result, due to the incompetence, traffic was held up for months, if not years, in some cases. I have a few pictures here from construction sites. It was absolutely a joke. This is 14th Street and 17th Avenue. This is a very, very busy street, 17th Avenue Southwest. Lots of people use it to access the downtown, to get to work. Even students going to Western Canada High School and St. Mary's High School. I mean, the list goes on for people who are utilizing. And look at they tear up the street and don't even make a way for traffic to get by while workers are standing idle. You know what I mean? It's pathetic. In addition, you know, businesses suffered as a result of these plans created by the city. Here it is, October 16, 2017. And I really want to encourage you to look at it. I mean, to those of you that live in Calgary, that live on 17th Avenue Southeast, that boulevard, that was a beautiful, beautiful piece of road, International Avenue. And the advantage was that tourists that come to the city would know it by name. They would come to visit to sample all the different kind of cuisine from different countries. You name it, they've got it. It was a beautiful piece of road and so easy to access. And Nenshi and the city council came in and essentially destroyed the whole thing and put in a bus rapid transit, which, with the amount of construction that occurred, it might as well have been a LRT system because it was so overly done for a bus station, for a bus stop. You'd swear with the amount of road they were ripping up, you know, for a bus lane. It's absolutely pathetic. And ostentatious bus stops with heating and all kind of design nonsense going on. And the bus station is actually in the most dangerous part of the road. It's in the middle of the boulevard, and split the boulevard in two. You no longer have easy access to either side. And then she put in the infamous U-turn lights, which were absolutely incompetent. But I mean, I believe this is the original here. Could be. Hang on, let me see here. No, this has already been altered. No, this is the original. Sorry. This is the original. This is what replaced it. There is a great deal of construction that went in, years of construction blocking up to put barriers in like these. I'll quickly show you, to put in bus stops like these. Pardon me. Let's see if I can give you a wider view here. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the incompetence that happened here. I'm saying the city is exercising their power in the most brutal way and abusive way that they can. And the end result is that taxpayers lose millions and millions of dollars. Originally, they quoted something like 44 million, and it ended up being 52 million, the costs that they would admit due to unforeseen costs, let's say. And so here's the result. It is very ostentatious. Why do we need this kind of thing for just transit passengers? It's like, who the hell cares what the bus stop looks like? And how it is so overly done. It's extra money being thrown away. And so dangerous. In addition to that, like, they want to talk about public safety. There's a busy street on either side of this bus stop. And like, if somebody is careless, they can fall into traffic. It's really that dangerous. And so carelessly put together and so badly executed. I've tried to find you another example of it. But as I said, this was the original. I believe so now when I look at it, because the bus rapid transit isn't in there yet. That's the original. A beautiful boulevard, just simple, easy to turn left, easy to turn right. You can access both sides quite nicely with very few stoplights in there. And now I'd say they've doubled, if not tripled, the amount of stoplights. They've made it difficult to access either side unless you're on foot. and then you still have to cross the street. No, it's neither good for people on foot nor by car. If you're in rapid transit, it's good. So they create a problem, they create their own problem, and it's, to me, money is being lost, but that's only one of the major concerns. The other is business is suffering. I really wish that I could get you a picture of how they barricaded 17th Avenue Southeast during this time. It was absolutely horrendous. And when they say there's no access to businesses, they meant it. Here's some more of the construction. I'm glad we can have these pictures because it was literally blocked off, everything. I can't imagine how businesses suffered on 17th Avenue, on International Avenue, during the time of construction. It was just horrendous. Let's see here. There we go. I hope I can give it to you. Here we go. So, oh, it looks like that's the background. I can't get it. Okay, well, here is what was the beginning of the BRT. Now, when I looked at it the first time, I said, for all this construction and ripping up the streets, they must be putting an LRT in, but it's crooked. The platform is not level, and there's no stones, let's say, for laying track and whatnot. By this time, I was confused. So, may I reiterate, it's only for a bus. That's it. It's so stupid. Just for a bus. All this nonsense for a bus. For several buses to pass through. And they can utilize the main road as they did originally. That's what my whole point to this is, that the original was better. Always. When I look at the speed limit thing, I see something similar. I see something that's being destroyed in favor of something that's going to be more incompetent, slower, less efficient in every way, and create a lot of trouble for people, like what you see here. And believe me, this is not during a peak time. During peak time, there's traffic blocked up in every direction. It's pathetic. I look at this thing and I say, what's going on? Where is the thinking in the city of Calgary? And the truth is, it doesn't exist. $200,000 just to study what people want to hear. A referendum could be passed today and get a vote on it and shut it down immediately without spending too much money like that. $200,000. Why do they need to drag this thing out for a year for? It could be solved in a single day with one vote. I think I'll make a second video on this because there's so much stuff to go on about this thing. I would like to stop my video here. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll produce a second video very shortly. Thank you.